No mai hoki mai to another training session. We're on Thursday 7:45 as mentioned, and today's training session is some back squat work. So we're going to talk about the positions of a back squat, we're going to talk about the percentages, why they're the percentages, and then we have some odd object strength work. So we're going to look at dumbbell bench presses, some burpees over a dead ball, and then dead ball cleans, and with that we'll look at the technique of all of those things as well. We'll get some rest. We'll make these intervals not so much for time but for really good strength and quality, but then give us some good talking points over that. Finally there'll be a mecon, but I think that might be left off the table for later. Now to start this, I just want to cover over a little protocol of what I use when I program in terms of potentiation to the workout. So how you should warm up to the workout. It's just a nice little easy acronym here. You have the RAMP acronym. Now, you could also do these in a mixture of different orders, slightly. This one I think needs to stay last. So first of all, with RAMP, you use the R for raising heart rate. Now obviously raising heart rate, just something light and monostructural. It could be a few minutes or more on, say, a row, a bike, a skier, a combination of those things, a run. Activation, so activating the specific muscle groups of which you intend to be using. A lot of the time, especially if you underdevelop the activation side of things, all the big muscles will work, and then you might go to the physio or something and they say, oh, your rotator cuff isn't being able to stabilize when you're in an overhead position, or you haven't done enough banded external rotations and Cuban rotations, etc. But the activation fires all the little muscles and prepares them to be able to be used in the bigger movements. And I just think it's something that's overlooked quite often. So if you're someone out there that's unsure of how to warm up, or even if you've got a written warm-up and it's 3 rounds, but you're only doing 2 rounds, if it's 2 rounds, you're doing 1 round, you just can't be bothered. Think of the bigger picture. It's probably there for a reason, whether you're with me or whoever else. I think that that's pretty self-explanatory. Mobility, and I would say more specific mobility to the movement that you're doing. This could also be swapped around. So you can do mobility before activation. You can also do mobility before raising heart rate. If the heart rate stuff was very regressed, that's not a bad place to start, but if you intend on building this to quite a high pace, then you might want to start with mobility first. And then finally, potentiate. So the last letter of our acronym, RAMP, potentiate the movement that you're doing. Now, if you're doing or have done any type of weightlifting on any of my programs, 99% of the time you're going to see a primer there beforehand. So there might be your warm-up, your specific warm-up and preparation, and then a primer. And the primer is to potentiate the outcome of the working sets that we're trying to achieve. So you might be 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what degree of difficulty this centerpiece on the table is going to have before you start that thing. Now for me, I've already, just so you don't have to watch a whole lot of what I'm doing that's probably nonsensical, is I've already risen my heart rate. So I ran for 7 minutes. Activation, I've done a little bit of activation, zero mobility, and a bit of potentiation, just to kind of figure out where my squat's going to be. Because I'm doing back squat, I ran on my runners. I've changed my shoes to weightlifting shoes. A weightlifting shoe, for those that don't know, have a raised heel. If you've gone to a Globo gym, typically you'd see this. People squatting with their feet on plates. It's going to essentially do the same thing, and what that does is it increases the ankle range of motion through dorsiflexion, meaning that you can get more flexion of the ankle, and then you can also put the knee a little bit further forward, which gives you essentially a deeper squat position. And structurally, you're usually able to change the mechanics of that position to have a more appropriate bar path where that would be. For me, I actually don't wear weightlifting shoes probably ever. I just thought it was a good day just to put them on and talk about it. I do like a flat foot shoe when I do squat. I can feel the ground a little bit better. I'll talk about this when we get to the squats. But for today, I've chosen the weightlifters. By no means are they a bad thing. I think it might even improve my squat, who knows. And then also knee sleeves. So I've got my knee sleeves on. I put them on after the run. Well, I don't like so much to put them on before I raise my heart rate, because it's just like the tension on my calves that it has. I only like to kind of use them in a heavy squat setting. There's different thicknesses of knee sleeves as well. Depending on the workout, like if there's a lot of movement in the workout, I'll use a 3mm knee sleeve, and it's just very thin, but it's almost for comfort and just a little bit of compression and probably more comfort than anything. But then a 5mm like this one, you're definitely going to get some sort of assistance and stability around the joint. And then a 7mm, frick man, you're going to feel like you're on a trampoline getting out of the bottom of a squat. It's almost hard to squat. So that's a very specific heavy squat knee sleeve, and I would only use that. I wouldn't use it in a workout or anything like that. 5mm, you kind of get a crossover blend of like nice heavy weights to be lifted, plus being able to use it in a Metcon setting. 3mm, yeah, you might be able to lift heavy weights in them for sure, but definitely Metcon is probably the most preferred option with those. Right now, I've got them just folded up underneath my knees, and I'll only pull them up for max tension when I do need them. I might not. So again, I've risen my heart rate. I've done a couple of these things, but I'm just going to do about 5 more minutes worth of work before starting on my back squats. Our back squats are 5 times 5 today. We're working at 70% of our 1 rep max. This is a staple in the diet. You'll see this many times across a year, and virtually probably everyone's programming it. Why is 5 times 5 at this type of percentage, or up to maybe 80%? Why is that the number? I'll talk about that in the rest rounds. We'll start with this warm-up or finishing the preparation. So right now, I want to increase my thoracic extension a little bit, just so that I'm not like folding in the bottom of my squat and taking a little bit of load into the lumbar spine. So I'm going to put my hips down here. I'm going to grab the plate. It's only 5 kilos, straight arms. I'm just going to take it back as far as I can before kind of compromising and raising my hips. I just felt some good back clicks there. Just a good shoulder opener. But I like it more for the thoracic extension that it gives. And for those that don't know, it just means that your spine is going to be a little bit more vertical when you squat. And so if you can imagine the vertebrae and your back stack like this, and you want them to be as straight as possible with load on top, so then it compresses down through all of them. As soon as one is off an angle like this, you're going to get some sort of compromising between one of those discs or joints. So this just helps me get into a little bit more extension to maintain that position and intention. That's that one. I've done some hip internal rotations, external rotations like this already, but I'll do some more. So this is a shin box rotation, or a 90-90. Just adding a little bit of a thoracic opener as well. So primary goal here, hips. And again, internal, external rotation, so your hip turning in, hip turning out, and just allowing me the space to get to the bottom of my squat with comfort. Alright. Now, you don't have to overcomplicate things to like get a really good structural warm-up in. Often, I mean, you can get out all the gear and have all these fancy things, but I like a squat to stand motion, especially with the dynamic range of it. So what that is, I might just do like 30 seconds or so of this movement here, stretch my hamstrings out nice and long, use my feet for leverage to pull down into the bottom of a squat. Hamstrings nice and long. Again. And obviously, this one here, it's kind of a hybrid crossover blend of activation, mobility, and potentiation. I'm doing this movement, this is my in range of motion with load, but obviously increasing the range for mobility and potentiating the movement. Now, just to give you some ideas on what you can do for mobility, I like this little complex here. So I'm going to do a band and hip distraction, meaning the band is going to pull my femur or the head of my thigh bone into the back of the capsule here. I'm going to go down into what's called pigeonhole, so runner's stretch. And at this point, that band is just going to help increase the range of activity that I have in the hip. I'm just manipulating it with just a couple little hip shifts here. I feel that it's quite tight. If you're really mobile, you'll pull this foot up, so this knee and foot are like parallel to each other. If not so much, just a little bit further back. And then also for a more deeper stretch, you can go elbows, or for some people who are really lucky, I won't say luck because they've built it that way, potentially, you can lie flat as well. These hips don't lie like Shakira, so we're not quite there. So I'll do this one, maybe like a minute to 2 minutes. That one there's probably like 30, 45 seconds maybe just now. I'll swap the other side. Again, right up on the thigh bone. Cross the leg down. Sink that long leg out behind. And I'm just turning away from it. Rather than me go deeper to the floor for range of motion right now, I've got enough here. I'll just change a little bit of the aptitude of that stretch just by shifting my hip. I do want my shoulders square though. I don't want to just sit here like this. So I do want to kind of have square shoulders to the floor, whether that's on your hands, elbows, or lying flat. That's your first goal. So that's that one. Then I'm just going to couple that with, while I'm here, a banded straddle. So now I'm just getting into the groin area and adductors, sinking back, and then I might just turn my feet out and just ever so slightly, just reach from side to side. And you're going to hit the whole complex of hamstring, adductor, with tension and lengthening the muscle. So obviously we are going through some back squats that are going to be fairly decent weight. Just preparing the body adequately to get there. Now comes the potentiation. I've already done some empty barbell squats, but I'll do some again. Just to kind of oil the grooves a little bit. I won't really worry too much about how these ones are moving versus just getting some reps in and then adjusting it as I go through. The last one was trash. So now I'll go 20 on each side for 60 kilos. In terms of jumps, like today's working percentage is 70%. I want to get there in like 4 lifts. So 60 is going to be my first one. 5 reps was my target reps for today. So I'm going to either do 5 or more in my first barbell preparation. Just center that up. My hand position right now is a little bit further than ideal. Just a little bit of a shoulder block coming into it. I'll try. Hands only need to be just outside the shoulders. If you don't have the mobility for it, you'll go wider. Upper back tension. Five reps. Felt all right. My jump preference might be 80 or 90, but I think 100 will be there. My working weight is 140. Now, I think it's just crucial getting the right loads when you're working up to a certain governed set, and it's just to potentiate your body. So you're not making too many leaps that your nervous system isn't quite ready and primed for. And not doing so little that you're just fatiguing reps that kind of don't need to be there as well. I'm gonna pull the knee sleeve up. Just because of the jump, just gonna make sure that I'm nice and ready for it. I might even use the belt. Currently at 50% of my current 1 rep max. So I'll look to do 5 reps here. I just tightened up all my kit because I want to be confident. I don't want any doubt of all that was heavy, all that was slow, all that was sticky, because I've still got a ways to go to get to my working weight. Otherwise, I'm going to start counting a weight below it for my first set, or 2 sets below my actual working set. And we'll talk about why the working set is the working set just after this one. So, put my hands in, find the nice meaty spot on my back, breath in, rack. Position. Rack. The load felt good. The joints felt old. But hey, it's all good. It's all good. Clip it on. No risk of plates moving. So again, another 40 kilo jump. But I'm confident that I'm going to be 9 out of 10 ways there. And if not, then that first set is going to get me set up for the subsequent sets thereafter. Now, so essentially this is going to be my first working set. I have, and this was stripped from the class programming. I have 1 set every 3 minutes for 5 rounds. Now, if we take a look at this board, let me just put this up here. If you've got any questions, it's time limit. If you've got any questions, fire them through, because this is your opportunity to learn more about why a set is what it is, why a rep is what it is, and more of the science behind it. So we're starting on 5 times 5 at 70%. You're at week 1 of your current program. We like linear progression week to week to week. If we are higher than this, then we might just cap out that potentiation too soon. We need to still prime our central nervous system, not even just within a session, but across a timeline to get it to where those loads can be. So you can probably get up to 5 times 5, 80, maybe 85%, but it's really going to damage you. So we want that structural loading week to week to week to be progressive and linear progression at that. Now, 3-minute window, I think is ample time in this to get these squats nice and strong, but across the weeks, you're definitely going to want to have that total rest time to recover. And now this is going to be very specific. Like if you're a big boy in powerlifting and your back squat is 300 plus, you might walk in for 5 times 5 at 70%, and that might take you an hour. Just because it's the same percentage doesn't mean it's the same structural loading that is just on a human anatomy, right? So that's something to consider as well. Then there's obviously fitness and recoverable levels as well. But the 5 times 5, why this is 5 reps is 5 reps sits right on the cusp of maximum load that forces the amount of stress and pressure within the body, or like say the quads, for example, to make the body recruit more motor units and muscle fibers. So you go up to now say 10 reps, unless it's 1 set 10 rep max, it's going to be pretty hard to repeat 10 reps 3 times over at like maximal loading to force growth for strength structure. Now, if you go to 20 reps, the load isn't so heavy that it's forcing that same stress for adaptation. So 5 reps kind of sits in that magical number. If it's 3 reps, you're probably up looking 85 to 90% of your 1 rep max. If you hit more than 90% for 3 reps, you're in a really good place. you're in a really, really good place. So in terms of like programming, 3 reps at 90%, but then we're not so much getting enough stress across the total volume aspect of that to really enforce larger amounts of growth. Yes, you are getting that structural loading, but like, let's say I do 100 kilos for 3 reps versus 80 kilos for 5 reps. 80 kilos for 5 reps, 400 kilos total. 100 kilos for 3 reps is 300 kilos total. So yes, you're going to be squatting more, but over the course of that set, that structural volume, there'll be more on the 80 kilos. Now, again, once you kind of get to 10 reps or further, it's just negligible. You're not going to have enough pressure or stress from the weight to create the adaptation in the muscle. That being said, 140's loaded up my first rep set. I will belt up. I've just got a Velcro belt. Nice and easy to get on and off. I breathe in a little bit. I have tension here, but I can still kind of get my fingers between me and the belt. It's not tight all the way up that I'm going to pop a rib. Hand position. All right. It was okay. It was okay. I don't really like my foot position on that. So it's something I'll have to figure out in the next set. I am a fan of having a toe pointed out slightly. What I'm thinking of when I squat is foundations first. So foot position. What that looks like, imagine that this is my foot. I press my big toe into the floor. I screw my foot out. I'm thinking about 3 points of contact. Big toe, outside of foot, heel. I screw down, push my hip into external rotation. It gives me a lot of ability to create torque and screw power through the floor to stand up. That's always my first port of call. Then I'm going to break at the hips, initiate the squat, and I'm only going to go as far back as I can maintain my big toe on the ground. I don't want to be squatting so hip dominant or taking my hips so far back that I'm all the way in the heels, like we're here squatting your heels. Like, yeah, the weight should be on the heels as much as the big toe can stay down. The moment that that big toe comes up, you're too far back in the heels. Now, if you don't believe me, stand up from your desk, put the toes into the roof of your shoes, leave them there, and jump as high as you can like that. And you'll feel the difference of being able to create natural power in that position versus without. And then it's a balance thing. So balance, stress and pressure through the floor. I'll talk about the angle of the foot in the next break. I don't really like what I just did in terms of, it could be better. So I'm going to try and fix that now. Cool. It might just be getting used to these shoes again, but a lot of the times we think toes forward, knees out, squat. Now, exactly what just happened there. If my toes are forward, I go to squat down, and my feet shuffle out on the way down, my hip didn't like where I started. If your foot is on the move, during a squat, it means that you're not grabbing the ground with enough pressure. and that your hip didn't like where it was. So move your foot. I like to have my feet slightly angled out. So let's say straight ahead is 0 degrees, and then to the side is 9, so you've got that little box window. You're going to go 5 to 15 degrees. Now, the reason why I like this is because our knee is a hinge joint. And a hinge, like the elbow joint, is made to primarily go back and forth. It'll give you minimal rotation, but it's not like a ball and socket joint, like shoulder and hip where you get larger range of motion. So I don't want to be going toes straight and then forcing my knees out and getting all of this load through a rotation that doesn't want. I want my femur, thigh bone, tibia, fibula, and the shin to hit that same angle, like this, because that's a hinge. I'm going to, like, bodyweight squat, if you've got no weight on, for sure. There's no loading. This is a good mobility squat, sitting in here. But as soon as there's load on, my preference is turn them out 5 to 15 degrees. If you're further than that, if you're here, then we got some hip work to do. Get these hips going. And ankles, essentially lower back. All right, another set. Honestly, I had something good to say at 3 reps and I forgot it at 5. Bear with me. That's a little gassy. I don't even know. Eye position. So for me, I'm looking like 2, max 3 meters in front of me. 3 meters might be low on the wall. The wall's about 2 meters away. Bare minimum. 2 meters at the base of the wall. A lot of the time, especially when you're kind of coming out of a Globo gym, you get told, look up to stand up and look up for back extension as well. So we know flexion is a problem. This, a rounded back. Less than ideal. But it's not talked about enough that overextension is the same problem, but in reverse. So if I have this huge overextension, I'm going to feel the weight here. I want to compress down through rib cage and belly button and have this neutral. So again, the weight is stacked structurally and it goes through the spine, through the hips, through the legs, through the floor. But if I'm rounded here, I'm definitely going to feel that mid back. If I'm overextended, more low back. If you're if you're like not so great with ankle range of motion, you have a vertical shin in the bottom of your squat and you have a hyperextended back, you're kind of just breaking parallel because of those things. Maybe your anthropometry is set up like that, your anatomical structure. So like long shins, short femur, thigh bone, something like that, and you have a hyperextension through the back. That might be why you're getting back pain in your squats. So it would almost look Good Morning-esque. And it's something to think about. You're like, man, I've got like my back is extended, but we don't talk enough about overextension. Neutral spine. I don't think I did it so well in my last rep, which gave me this cue and thought. One thing with the back squat is we want to see the joints, I'll say break for less of a better term, break at the right time. So, stood up to extension, initiate my squat, break at the hip, boom. Just initiate it, and then follow with everything else. It's not going to be like compartmentalize, where you are here, do this, and then start squatting. Practice it, it'll become smooth and autonomous, but what we don't want to do is from standing tall, break at the knees first. One, it shifts the load forward in the foot already. Damage control, you've already compromised the movement. How well can we now sit back in the heel? But two, you've just taken load into the patella, into the knee joint. And we would prefer that we hip dominated that first and took the most, like the initial brunt into the hip. And then of course, like people would say, full range squats loaded, are they harmful and damaging to your body? Like, no. It depends on load, it depends on how you're doing it. But it's the most beneficial thing that you can do for your body, in my opinion, at the right loads, at the right understandings, and hugely dependent on tempo. You are not going to fly to the bottom and then stand up out of that squat. It has to be a controlled descent. It's not controlled to the point that it's a tempo, but it's not so fast, and you can see it with your naked eye. If you go so fast and you try to come back the other way, the gravity kind of is still descending as you're coming up the other way. You're not in, I would say, connection with the barbell, with the same energy. You have to control the tempo, always strong from the bottom to the top, getting out of it, unless you're going to pause somewhere along the way to work on a specific position. Control, Alt, delete. One more set. I feel, man, my legs are spicy. I feel it. CrossFit Open is tomorrow. Send your predictions in. I put out a video release, and people are asking for my predictions. They're not my own predictions. They are what I would do. If I'm honest, I have no idea what the workouts will be, and I probably haven't even tried to guess them for the last 8 years. But if you focus on themes and schematics, you'll get pretty close. Right, last set. Hips. 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 Big toe down. Last one. Ooh. That was reverse order of what I would like in that last rep. I went straight down and then hips back out at the bottom. And it was, yeah, again, against the grain of what I would have liked to have done. I didn't have a nice mid-foot drive to stand it up. And probably just trying to talk too much BS in between. So that's the squats done. Again, hope you've got some good key takeaways from that and some work-ons or some understanding. So in summary, your reps are what they are to cause a certain adaptation or stress, which will cause the adaptation. In this case, the magic number 5, enough loading that you can really stress the muscle. It's not too heavy that it becomes more endurance-based, or it's negligible for stress factors to recruit more muscle fibers, and at the percentage that it was given. And then we look at position. And we didn't even talk about upper body too much or anything like that, but like position, foot position, angles of joints, ranges of motion, and how to, why to, and all those things in between. And for me, right now, I mean, my biggest thought in a squat is foot pressure. And I spoke about at the start, having a weightlifting shoe which raises this heel. When I squat, I prefer a flat shoe like a Nike Metcon because I can feel the ground better. You've got a couple of feedbacks there. So it's a kinesthetic feedback. It's by feeling. And I can just feel my foot pressure a little bit more. When this is up off the ground, I don't like how much I can't really feel that as much. This is going to give me increased range of motion. And believe me, I'm not the most mobile. Like, I would want this. But I can still meet the range of the movement without it. And I prefer that feeling. However, I'm going to spin a cycle on these just to run them back. Weightlifting shoes, these are Nike Romaleos 4s, I think. If you're going to spend money on a weightlifting shoe, like these might be 300 or 400 New Zealand dollars. Something like that. They all do the same thing. Essentially, just grab some plates and stand on plates. If you don't want to spend out on that, it's not going to be the reason why you win or lose. But I would also recommend get the ones you want. Don't go into the shop and be like, fuck, I want these per se, and they're $300, but I'm only willing to spend $150, so I take the other pair because I'll end up getting these. Because these are going to last you a lifetime. You're not going to replace your shoes unless your feet get bigger, or unless you just get sick of the colorway. But essentially, you're going to have one pair for life. You only use them in a lifting session. You know, it's not like you walk and run outside, they don't get ripped up or anything like that. They're made with good dexterity. So again, my suggestion is that just get the ones you want. Otherwise, you're going to always think about that anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to change my shoes. And then we're going to get back into the interval piece. So if you can come and look at the board. The board here, we have odd object strength, 6 sets. I'm going 9 dumbbell bench press, 7 burpees over a dead ball, 5 dead ball cleans. I'm resting 90 seconds between sets. That's going to give me a total of 30 dead ball cleans. I like that. 42 burpees and then 54 dumbbell bench press if my math serves me right. And then I'll do the class Metcon after that. We'll stay for this piece. We'll talk about it and the design of it. Questions come through. High bar versus low bar. Or is it just personal preference? It is just personal preference. Typically, you're going to see a lot more powerlifters lift high bar. You decrease the range of motion, which has to happen in the squat, especially to meet the standard of the sport. Your hip crease only has to break parallel. It's a very hip dominant squat, so you almost have a vertical shin. What that means is, say my bar's on my back, I'll grab a stick. You can load this up on the tube too. This one's pretty big. Okay, so I have my stick on my back, high bar versus low bar. This is the high bar position. If I squat, a low bar squat is essentially a hip dominant squat, meaning you're going to push your hips as far back as you can to just break parallel as well. Well, not as far back as you can, and still maintain foot pressure with big toe down. And your shin's going to be near somewhat vertical. So if that looked like that with a high bar, hips back, vertical shin, or it might just below parallel here maybe. My high bar, my bar is situated, that's its center of mass there. It needs to be or wants to be over the middle of my foot. I'm a whole foot in front of that, so that's going to be a lot of pressure here, mid-back, and pushing me forward. When I'm down that same position, if I'm able to bring my bar back to here, set it over like my delts, seat it over my delts. So this will be the sharp position, boom. I've got hips back. I've got it closer to foot there. That's just a little insight to why it will be low bar, and that's for that type of squat. A high bar is going to be more access to range of motion for depth, but 2, more quad dominant. people think like, there's such a misconception around what muscles are activating in the bottom of a squat. Fucking everything. Everything's working in the bottom of a squat. Hammies, quads, everything. You have to get out of the bottom. Your body's going to stress everything to get out of there. So that's a myth. But it's just be range of motion and the carryover to other exercises. So like a clean person. When you receive the barbell, boom, nice and tall, vertical stack torso slash spine. And as you squat down, you're going to want to be in that more verticality position versus like training your body to hip dominant squat and catching cleans like this. There's no body underneath that, so the bar's going to typically go forward. But yeah, you go top end, specificity. The sport is 1 rep max back squat. Generally you're going to see most, if not everybody, performing a low bar back squat. Again, we're going to do our dumbbell bench press burpees over the dead ball and dead ball cleans. With the power of TV and my magic oven, here's one that we prepared earlier. So I'm going to start with 32.5 kilo dumbbells, 9 reps. I would be confident in that at least for 1 to 2 sets, and then I don't know with the compromising or compounding fatigue, and essentially like you're supersetting a bench press with bodyweight press off the floor for a burpee. So that's going to be compounding as well. Ideally, in an ideal world, I would be able to go up in weight from this, but this is a good starting point. Now, we'll just cover the dead ball clean before we get into a set. Man, my legs are quivering from the squats. So, dead ball. This is a 65 kilo dead ball. Excuse me. Generally, like a dead ball and a sandbag are going to have largely the same mechanics. They might differ slightly in the way that you're able to move them depending on the sandbag, because the circumference of the bag might be different, the filling size of the bag might be different, so you might get something that's floppy in the middle, which you can kind of swing like a kettlebell, a little bit different style. But the dead ball, more often than not, will hold its shape and dexterity, so you're going to have to like have good circumference around the ball. I'm going to think of this as like 2 things. Like, there's a couple of different ways to lift this. Now, if it's not your most heaviest dead ball and you need to go to traditional form, you might just be able to kind of clean it from the ground and finish the rep to the style of just completing the rep. But for today, I'm just going to straddle my feet over the dead ball. I'm going to put my arms down like this, my hands against the floor. I'm going to roll the ball onto one hand. Then I'm going to take that space and tuck the other one in, kind of shimmy it back. We'll go into a deep squat. Might not be that deep, but we'll go into a squat with dead ball on knees, and then fast motion hip hop to the top. Top of the rep, extension, arm showing, finish rep. That's it. So here, roll on, even more. Here, wrap, kind of Dagestani handcuff. Top. Catch. I don't know if I'm strong enough right now to do this, but a faster way to get to finish position from the bottom, just clean. I'm not too worried about the pace of this. I definitely just want to move well. Cool, so again, we are going to do 9 dumbbell bench press, 7 burpees over the dead ball, 5 dead ball cleans, and we'll rest 90 seconds. The dumbbell rep starts with the dumbbell at the top position, touches the chest, finishes that lockout at the top. I don't want to roll back, have them on my chest, and press. So it's a skill. The same way that you learned how to hook grip, the same way that you learned how to kipping bar swing, learn as best you can, at least until the weights that are manageable for you, to kick your arms into extension with the dumbbells from the start. Now, let's see the bucket on the first one. So 32s and a half. I sit them on the edge of my knees. I lean back, my arms are at extension. Push. Nine. Now 5 cleans. And 90 seconds rest. Math. 14. It got spicy. Obviously, like going for burpees, high heart rate, constant moving, and then going into a dead ball has a lot of compression of tension through here, squeezing against an object, against your abdomen. It really, I need to recover too, so it's hard to talk. It's really hard to breathe because one, you've compromised the breath in the first instance, and then two, you can't really breathe with it in this position, at least like maximal diaphragmatic breathing. So in between your reps, pick your moments, gasp for air. When you move, fucking move, because you want it done as fast as possible. When you rest, rest. When you move, move. Don't half-ass the movement because you're going to just cost more energy. So when you move, move. Round 2. Burpees. Oh shit. My bad. That's got me beat up already. Cool though. Cool. Honestly, one of my favorite things in CrossFit is just the fucking randomization of components. Now, bear with me. As I say randomized, it's structured randomization. So like, you go to a Globo gym, you're just not going to see the connection of a workout. Dumbbell bench press, burpee, dead ball. You're not going to see assault bike, handstand walk, squat snatch. And it's just such a cool way to train. It's such a cool way to train. And then now that we understand these principles, 10 years ago, fuck, we were just guessing. It was just guesswork. 15 years ago, we were guessing. It was more monkey play. You know, we'd come in, just swing from rope to rig to ring, do dumb shit, do handstand push-ups on the rings at the top with no mats and stuff like that, and more like reckless abandonment. But now, you know, with another 15 years of understanding the principles of training, there wasn't a whole lot of data. Like, yeah, you knew how to strength train, cool. We had that world. We had Ironman world. We had running world. We knew the best of those things, but as soon as we tried to mesh all of those things together, it was new data. We don't know what percentage was of squat we needed to do in a session coupled with thruster, burpee, whatever, to have a cohesive session, and how recoverable that workout was to be able to repeat a training session the next day and the next day, and or what type of intensities each day should require, which muscle groups each day should achieve, which outcome was going to happen off of that training. And now, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The body types of these people, crazy. The ability of these people, crazy. The adaptation and the knowledge, wow. Wow. Not to say that any other form of fitness is hard. Isn't hard, rather. It's more so like the expansion of what you're able to do, and it's stimulating and still unknown. Like 15 years on, and there's still workouts, so you're kind of like, just don't know how that one's going to work. We did one, I don't know, within the last 2 months. Bear with me here. 100 deadlifts, 100 hang power cleans, 100 shoulder to overheads at 43 kilos males, 30 for the ladies. And I'll be honest, I have the belief in myself to know every single workout and the outcome. This is such a dense workout, I really don't know. I needed to do it, and I needed to see it, so I could put more data around it, because it's such a freaking specific niche workout. You know, who's going to go do 100 deadlifts, hang power cleans, shoulders, overheads? What's going to be the limiting factor? Obviously, whatever movements last is going to be compromised. How are you going to break your deadlifts, if at all? It's light. Are you going to maintain form on your deadlifts? It's going to be reckless and round out your spine the whole time. It's not so heavy that it's going to compromise like your overall health and safety, but it's just a douchebag move to move like that. I think I've done a really good job of talking so much to warrant 3 minutes of rest. I mean, that's a trick of the trade. Just talk. Or as they say, I'm just fluent in Japanese. Anyway. All right, we're coming up on an hour. I wanted to keep it shorter. I'm going to finish the last 3 sets off screen, plus the workout. Hold me accountable, I will do it. Hopefully today, in summary, you've learned something. Ramp, in terms of preparation. Back squat, numbers, sets, reps. Why, position, and then integrating mixed odd object skill work, so that's strength work, reasonings, a bit of biomechanics, technique, energy system, and fun factor. That's us. Week 3, see you in week 4.